Corona Extra. So we're in no way sponsored by any beer companies, but pretty much our show. Why don't you tell us about our show, Alec? YouTube channel.
So this is a channel
Just talk normal.
about talking about music. That's all it really is.
So yeah, this is our show where we have a couple beers, talk about an album, and just share our thoughts about the album. Radiohead, A Moon-Shaped Pool. This is where we're gonna Photoshop the album. Wait, no, hold it. The album's gonna be in the center here when you watch this video. So Alec, you reviewed the album, A Moon-Shaped Pool, and you gave it a 9.6. Let's talk about that score.
Yeah, I thought it was a good album. What really is there to say about them? Radiohead, incredibly talented, alt-rock gods, influential, phenoms.
So in their discography, would you give anything a 10 out of 10?
I would actually, and maybe this is not surprising at all. I think Kid A is undoubtedly a 10, just because of the shift. You have to consider the shift between OK Computer, 97's OK Computer, into 2000's Kid A, and Amnesiac as well. Two albums that are just...
You would place them at the top of the discog?
I don't know if I would. I would put Kid A up there for sure. Kid A would be number one. Number two, I guess it's expected that people say it's either OK Computer, it's always a toss-up, OK Computer or Kid A for number one. Number two always has to be whichever one didn't get chosen for number one. Number three usually goes to In Rainbows, which is a great album in its own regard. I've always been partial to Amnesiac. Actually, I think it's a great album. A lot of people refer to it as Kid B, being made up from a lot of the cutting room floor of Kid A. But they were on such a high.
But really, that was A Moon-Shaped Pool. Really, it was all these songs that they've never live recorded.
It was at least two of them, which was Burn the Witch and True Love Waits. True Love Waits dating back to 95, and then Burn the Witch coming around 2000, which was actually around the time that Kid A had just been put out, I guess, one of those scraps. But both Kid A, like what I'm trying to say is Kid A and Amnesiac are both brilliant albums in their own regards.
What stopped you from giving the album a perfect 10?
A perfect 10 for A Moon-Shaped Pool?
Yeah.
Because as great as it is as an album, like as great and as well composited and as well put together it wasn't shocking, you know what I mean? It wasn't a shock that Radiohead put out a good album. Where I said earlier how Kid A, I would give that a 10 because, including the shift from OK Computer into Kid A, where 97 OK Computer comes out and it's this hugely influential album and world tour and it's a great time and everybody's losing it. And then, you know, they kind of stopped. Tom York, I guess, was battling depression and writer's block. It wasn't very... it was a tough time for the band, I guess, coming off this huge high. And a lot of people suffer, I guess, from the sophomore slump. I mean, this is Radiohead's technically third album that they're putting into production. But they couldn't write. They didn't really know what to say. And they took, I guess, what they were known for at the peak of their early career, just this massive album, and completely subverted it, and then came out with this beautiful, glitchy, electronic, like, new Radiohead, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's been 16 years now, but it was so different from what they had put out. Such a drastic shift in the 7 years since Pablo Honey even, and especially coming off of OK Computer, which sounds nothing like Kid A. It was a great album, composed well, put together very well. The lyrics, I mean, there's the story that Tom York, to get over his writer's block, wrote down sentences on paper, snipped them up, threw them in a hat, and pulled them out, and that's how he came up with lyrics to a lot of songs. I know Idiotech is one of those, which is another great track. But they perfectly encapsulated that turn of the millennium...
Paranoia?
Well, Paranoia, of course. But they took... the electronic wave that people kind of imagined for the new millennium, this whole Y2K, this whole computers are shutting down, this whole fear of everything electronic, and then they used that, they molded it to their advantage, they had that control over it. And what they put out was this really kind of poignant, fear-laden, paranoid, very Radiohead now, I can say 15, 16 years later, but at the time, completely unheard of in that kind of regard, album, against all odds, against everything they put out leading up to that point. And it was just this huge cultural shift, and like it's massively influential on the rest of their work, other artists. Like it's great. Like there's a reason that it's so highly acclaimed. OK Computer, of course, should be acclaimed highly in its own regard, but it's drastically different than Kid A. And I think that's why I liked Amnesiac a lot as well. They kind of delved even further into that almost not inaccessible, but until then unheard of type deal, incorporating lots of like jazzy synths and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like Life in a Glass House, spectacular closer for Amnesiac, which I think is one of.
Well, I think all their albums have pretty good closers.
All their albums do have great closers.
They know how to close an opening album for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's like this great jazzy, just insane, so anti what you'd expect Radiohead to sound like. So good. But that's why I give Kid A a 10. I wouldn't give Moonshaped Pool a 10 because what it really is, it's the sum of all the parts leading up until now. Like it's nothing that we've never really heard Radiohead do like, before.
So it isn't a flaw with the actual music itself, but
the music
more like the progression of the band.
Exactly. The music itself is good. Don't get me wrong. Each song is good. Each song is important. But for an album to deserve a 10 out of 10, it's more than just the music. You have to look at the context in which it's released. So what do you think of the Moonshaped Pool, Paul McAleer?
Well, I do think that I think it's a summation of all the sounds that they've kind of honed and perfected over the years. And I think that I was trying to think about like who really shines on this album in terms of like the band member and what instrument they play. And I think this album is just very, very even in terms of everyone kind of having their chance to shine. And it took me a while to like this album actually. I listened to it and I thought it was beautiful the first time. I didn't really I was just kind of listening to it like sonically, you know. I wasn't kind of focusing on the lyrics or any meaning behind the songs. And yeah, that's how I kind of first interpreted the album as like very good, not amazing, not breaking past that like 9 out of 10 score for me. You know, I was just like, you know, it's very good. They're not breaking any new ground. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna fall in love with this album. When I like listened to it for the 5th time around then,
I think I'm at like 30 or 35 listens.
Yeah, and it's something crazy like that. That's all I've been listening to over the past
like
week. Come out last week?
Yeah,
it came out last week. It's been a long week, my friend.
I know, I can't believe it.
Well, I think that like a lot of the songs, there's this. You kind of yearn for like the heavier, kind of more energetic songs with Radiohead, like the national anthem, you know, just like the poppier songs that just kind of you can bob your head to, right?
I would argue that In Rainbows is probably their poppiest album.
Yeah.
King of Limbs was a dramatic shift into something else. Though, see, I think the King of Limbs is another great, highly underrated Radiohead album. Yeah. That the reason that it was not even panned but not received as triumphantly as that's their other albums, is because of the long wait for like a really short album. And I think it's a spectacular deal all around. And that's one of the King of Limbs is another great album where it took me a little while to get into. Yeah. Like first I was like, what the hell is this? It's 8 tracks, it's like 32, 34 minutes long, this is bullshit. Like it sounds nothing like them. It was just like an Atoms for Peace type thing before it kind of came out.
Yeah.
And then like it kind of hits you, man. You listen to like shit like, I don't know, Give Up the Ghost is a great track, sad track, very good. Separator's a good one.
But I feel like there, with the Moonshaped Pool, there wasn't really any kind of standout track for me that was just like had that energy. But I mean, Burn the Witch and Full Stop were kind of the 2 exceptions off the album. Mm-hmm. But I kind of just wanted some more like craziness and wildness in the music.
Just wanted more gimmicky hip hopper.
No.
Oh my God, this guy doesn't know music, man. I'm just kidding.
Grabbing another beer.
I'm just kidding.
And we're back. And conclusion. Summary of your thoughts. Moonshaped Pool.
So at the end of it all, Moonshaped Pool is a great album. Obviously, it's a great album. I mean,
spectacular album.
It's spectacular. It's got everything that you really want from Radiohead. It's got that paranoia. It's got those themes of loneliness, isolationism. It's got great instrumentals, great lyrics. Everybody's really on point. Again, London Contemporary Orchestra, their contribution to this album is really what makes it stand out, I think, for me. Obviously, I gave it a 9.6 in the write-up that I did for this. And honestly, I think it will stand the test. I mean, it's not their best album.
Yeah.
but it's a spectacular album nonetheless.
What's next for Radiohead?
Probably more music.